Australian Sovereignty, Past, Present and Future. BIRRARUNG by Jim Poulter. The concept of sovereignty is based on the history of all-powerful monarchs who ruled by edict. The trek to modern democracy began in medieval England in 1215, when King John signed the Magna Carta to share power with an Assembly of Lords. In modern democracies, sovereignty now rests with parliamentary assemblies, elected by citizens of adult age. Sovereignty is also now used to describe traditional Aboriginal society, but is never accompanied by any examination of the nature of this sovereignty. In Australia today, sovereignty is shared between three levels of government: local, state and federal. Then, on top of that, we have various international diplomatic and trade relationships. These four modern levels of government had their parallels in traditional Aboriginal Australia. Clan or tribe. The first level of traditional Aboriginal government, equivalent to the municipality, was the clan or tribe. Each clan was based on a water catchment area, and the clan commonly derived its name from the major river of the area. Clans usually had triple banger names, and the best local example of this was the Gunung Nillumbik of the Maribyrnong River. This essentially translates as the Maribyrnong River. Gunung is the home country, Willum, of the people in this catchment, Bullock. All clans were governed by male and female councils of elders, each with their own inviolate spheres of authority. Qualifications for eldership was in no way related to age, family, or line of descent. Religious and secular authority was fused, and eldership was based solely on merit, accompanied by the twin tests of knowledge and character. Each elders' council had equal representation from each of the four ritual lodges, known as skin groups. Children could not be in the same lodge as either of their parents or their marital partner. So in practical reality, this meant that no individual, group or family could ever arbitrarily seize power and institutionalise their control. Language group. The second level of government, equivalent to the state, was the language group, consisting of a handful of clans who shared the same language. A language was referred to as a lip rather than a tongue, and each language, no matter how similar to its neighbours, usually defined itself by having a different word for no. So in Woiwurrung, the language of the Melbourne area, Woi meant no and Wurrung meant lip. Cultural identity. The third level of government, equivalent to federal, or more accurately, a federation, was a handful of groups with similar languages and a shared cultural identity. To show their sense of commonality, each of the language groups had the same word for human beings, or the civilised people. In the 5 language groups of the central Victorian area, this word was Kulin, and they would have referred to themselves collectively as Kunditj Kulin, meaning members of the civilised people. Although each federation had a shared sense of cultural identity, they nonetheless often had joke names for each other, like bog dwellers, snail eaters, saltwater drinkers, or seaweed speakers. However, the tribes outside their cultural federation were dismissively referred to as uncivilised people, or wild blackfellas. Trade and diplomacy. Despite such nominally pejorative references to other cultural federations, there was, however, a fourth level of ritually established protocols of trade, pilgrimage and diplomacy. Goods were traded over the length and breadth of Australia by delegated agents, and people followed defined songline routes to visit sacred sites. Emissaries, diplomats and doctors were, however, exempt from the protocols that governed traders and pilgrims. These dignitaries were identified by red and white stripes across their noses and cheeks, and had complete freedom of movement. It was therefore not surprising when the first fleet arrived in Sydney in 1788 that Aboriginal people were quite impressed with the red and white striped uniforms of the British Marines. The point is, however, that the concept of Australian sovereignty was irrevocably changed at that point, and we must now reach a new accommodation between past and present. Sovereignty today. Sovereignty in both traditional and contemporary Australia, therefore, has many parallels. Both societies could be defined as plural, democratic societies with citizen equality under the rule of law. But what of the future? Our future cannot possibly exist within some framework that has implications of apartheid. We are one society with a common destiny as Australians, but with a rich Indigenous heritage that we must cherish. The Australian Constitution, however, is a sterile document and is just a mechanical scheme of arrangement between the states. It says nothing about who we are as a people and does not represent a living social contract between the government and the people. I therefore believe that the 2023 referendum focused on the wrong issue. Instead of trying to enshrine a voice in the body of the Constitution, we could have instead aimed at embedding two basic principles in a constitutional preamble. First, that Australia is a plural democracy with citizen equality under the rule of law. And second, that our Aboriginal heritage is a fundamental aspect of our national identity. I have no doubt that the vote for reflecting a living social contract in our Constitution would have been successful. About Jim. Jim Poulter is a local historian with an interest in Aboriginal history. His family have lived in the area since settler times.